the guru of Team USA, the individual who probably knows the most about the program outside of the coaching staff, certainly, but even then, there could be more that Matt Canizaro knows about. Matty, how you doing?
Doing all right, sir. Always glad to be here talking about Team USA, and you're absolutely right. I have seen and experienced one or two things in events over the last 17 years almost. Holy cow! But glad to join you. You guys are doing a great job, and listening from a distance, of course, and offering some things behind the scenes. And now here we are, front and center.
As we kickstart day 3 squad of the women's here, I know you have been busy telling stories like you always do. Specifically, we mentioned earlier the Mabel Cummins. Uh, Perhaps what was some of the more unique items that you learned about Mabel in that story? And then B, perhaps you can give us a small preview of what might be upcoming.
Well, again, some of these young players, we've had the opportunity to watch them grow up, and with the addition of the U12 categories and Junior Team USA and the developmental teams, we've had a chance to see them mature in a variety of ways as players, as individuals, and as students. And Mabel is one. We've had the opportunity to travel a little bit. Went to the World Junior Championships in France back in 2019. It feels like forever ago. But she already was young and ambitious and ready to get going. And at just 19 years old now, already a junior in college. So, again, the fast track and looking to work in the forensic pathology. And she dumbed it down a little bit for me and said, "Hey, have you ever seen NCIS? I want to be like Ducky and go out there in the field and contribute and help people and do all the things." And then we talked about her weekly schedule, which was insane, adding up all the things. If you count her hobbies, um, if there's time for that, running and weightlifting, there's about 12 things on the list that keep her busy. As an honor student at Vanderbilt at 19 years old, as an All America selection in the bowling program, Junior Team USA member, I just think of what I was doing at 19 in college and what I do now. Right, she's out there, and there's only so many hours in a day in a week, and she's able to volunteer, help children be prepared for disasters. That was the first thing on the list. So, tornadoes, hurricanes, you name it. Here's how you pack for those events. If there's a fire at home, fire drill, all the things to be ready in the event of disaster. That's what the American Red Cross. That's where her mom works. So some tie in there, but uh, she was able to also have her family move with her to Tennessee when she went to Vanderbilt. So the securities of home already there, and so that meant she didn't have to go home for the holidays. So she was already in town, so able to maximize the time there to practice and get ready for this event. Of course, we know John and Josie, the coaches at Vanderbilt, always out and about at these events, looking for players, helping players, in a very supportive environment there, flexible in their scheduling to allow her to do all these other things that she likes to do and is doing toward her career. So plenty of bowling going on still. The volunteering, works as an EMT, volunteers at the hospital, taking vitals in the waiting room. Spent, she said recently, some time in the helipad, greeting the patients as they came off the helicopter and went into the emergency room. So all of these things, again, just watching. And I'll tell you what, going back to convention just a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to be there doing some live streaming there and heard Mabel give a speech on stage as a youth bowler being recognized for all of her accomplishments. And I was very impressed then. I honestly didn't know much about her, who she was at the time, and didn't absolutely believe that this was a 16-year-old girl giving this speech and saying these things, and only has evolved since then. But being able to pack all of these things into a day and a week and do it so well, and again be on the honor roll and have such big picture goals, right? And in the long term, and still focused on all the little tasks along the way. And I'm just very impressed. And got some comments today actually from folks that read it. And if you just list it out, and I compared it to watching the movie Forrest Gump, right? All the awesome things he did in his life that were kind of out of this world and very, very Hollywood, but also kind of historical at the same time. And but that spanned over his entire life, all these crazy things. She's doing them all at once, and just going from one to the other. And I was just super impressed, and the ability to be able to tell the stories beyond the scoreboard, right? And that's kind of how you guys have grown up knowing me here as well, and trying to convey that to you. You can go on bowl.com, you can look at the standings, you can see who's winning, who the top players are, what they shot, what they averaged. So I don't have to tell you that. I don't have to write it in a paragraph and tell you what you already know. So my goal, I hope each day, is to come out and tell those stories and tell you the story beyond the scores and what's happening. So you get a little bit of everything, a little bit of entertainment, and some takeaways from that as well. You get to learn the players beyond just which hand they bowl with and how old they are and what their backswing looks like. And so hopefully so far this week that's happened. 2 for 2. Jake Peters' story the day before certainly stirred up some emotions for him, for us, for hopefully the readers, and got a little more insight beyond just the fact that Jake bowled well at this event. But he's another one. We saw him as a junior Team USA member and as a collegiate star, and now more than a decade later, finding success at each level. And we'll see that with many of our players this week, and we'll tell their stories. If you haven't checked it out, certainly please do. Bowl.com. A recap from each day here at the team trials. We'll have one later today as well. And of course, the big one, which always a contender for the longest story of the entire year, the recap of the Team USA Trials. So much going on here. Of course, we're going to crown the Team USA Trials champions, 1 man and 1 woman, based on ranking points this week. Versatility being tested over 5 days here at Gold Coast. And then the top performing non-professionals will advance to the U.S. Amateur Step Ladder, where they will fight for the U.S. Amateur titles and guaranteed spot on Team USA. And then, of course, automatic qualifiers for Team USA and Junior Team USA, as well as picks from the National Selection Committee, resume picks. So all of that information jam-packed into one ginormous story on bowl.com. But that's coming up later this week. Still a whole lot more to talk about between now and Friday night. Emil and Aaron and Brian and Jason and everybody have got you pretty up to speed with the first 2 days of competition. Now we're the back half of day number 3. Third oil pattern of the week. We'll have a rundown of the scores from the men's squad earlier today. Some standout performers on the day and overall. And we'll have, again, we'll talk about who did well, who's doing well, who's in the hunt. And, some of the other things beyond the leaderboard.
That is, well, to me, he's the GOAT. And I'll keep calling him that until a goat pops out one day and runs across his house or something like that so you can actually believe it. But we appreciate you, as always, putting the additional spin and work toward the written word. And as of right now, you may have something else to write about, as there is a front 7. Well, 49 and 50 is Kirsten Moore. And it's off to a good start. Again, this is day 3, and so that means a new pattern for the players to combat today. We saw the men's squad and we saw several strikes, especially later in the blocks. And some really good, consistent blocks overall from a few players also. Jade 3's pattern, of course, you can find all of those items at bowl.com/Team USA Trials. Of course, if you're watching on bowltv.com, you can find all of the information for this week by clicking on the star icon just to the right of the chat. Today, 41 feet is the distance, 22.5 milliliters of oil. .3 to 1. So, as we been talking about today, earlier during the men's squad, and even before looking ahead to today, the word a bit more forgiving. Certainly won't call it easy, but if you were to compare this pattern to maybe the other four, this one could be, and by all accounts of what we saw in the men's squad this morning, more favorable, and it lends its hand to more strikes being thrown. Elliott Monday has thrown the back five here. We'll keep our eyes on Kirsten Moore. Stephanie Zavala looked like she was about to potentially make a run. Open in the eighth. Avery Brown, collegiate player at Louisiana Tech, has started spare. That's 7 back, down on 37 and 38. Avery has had some single success at the national level, qualifying for ISCs 2 years back. She had a really solid day on day one. Also, a young player with an extreme amount of talent. Capri Howard, formerly of Jackson State University, out of the SWAC. She's got the front 7 down on 17 and 18.
We did see quite a few strings of strikes on the men's squad earlier today. Pattern just a little bit different, right? The volume difference from day to day for the men and women. Again, just some extra thought into the whole process there about rev rates and how the lanes break down and all that good stuff. So a lot of science going into what we're seeing out there, but a lot of strings of strikes, but no 300 games today. Had one yesterday and a 299, 298 today, and then our overall men's leader for the day. So I guess that was a poor choice of words there. So not overall men's leader. Today's day 3 leader, Andrew Guba, finished the day at the front 10 the last game and at 289. Gave it a run. A little bit short, but picking up a few bucks there as the day 3 leader, of course, and 1 point in the ranking system, right? That's the most important thing for these players. And Emil, I'm going to ask you about your friend and hometown compadre, Trent Mitchell, here in a minute. But I know we have some developing things happening here. But we'll get a rundown of what happened on the men's squad and what's what there. But just some good numbers, lots of strings of strikes. So as you said, some patterns are going to be a little bit more forgiving, and others more challenging. And each player going to have their favorites, the ones they're most looking forward to, their strengths and their weaknesses, and always interesting to hear from the players. And sometimes they surprise themselves, right? And did you think this pattern would be your best one? Well, no. And I went out and got it done, and surprisingly pulled well, and so pleasantly surprised. And it's always fun to talk about it after.
Emil Williams Jr. with the GOAT, Matt Cannizzaro, throwing it back to the time machine. Matt and I used to frequent the live stream booth at the Open Championships. We could say, did we start the live streaming at the Open?
At the OC, absolutely, we did, and it was Jason Overstreet, Lucas Wiseman that kind of brought Bowl TV to life more than a decade ago. Very much so at the international events for Team USA and such. They had the gear all over the globe, and then we brought it to all these great USBC events, and come a long way since our one camera and a stick mic.
Good shot there. First one in the 10th frame for Zavala. And a 9-pin, which will not fall. 2021 BWBA Rookie of the Year. But you can get to 209. Sarah already in the books at 198. Yolande. Just a 2-pin to deal with. Still a few frames left for our folks on 55 and 56. Let's check in on Capri Howard. As Kirsten Moore's run did end in the 8th frame. In fact, she's gone single pin spare since then. Capri Howard with 9 spare in the 9th frame. So we saw some similar scores and the scoring pace on the fresh this morning during the men's squad. There were several high scores tossed in game 1. A couple opportunities already at potential honor scores. The squad definitely one to keep an eye on. It should be busy throughout with high scores. I didn't get a chance to look at games 5 and 6, but through 4 games this morning, there was at least one score of 260 or better.
Definitely some strong finishers on the morning squad. We already mentioned Andrew Guba, 289. Nathan Stubler, 247. Cameron Crowe finished with 277 to get his way into the top 10 for the day. Michael Harmon had 259. Nick Pate had 259. And he was 10th for the day, averaging nearly 220. Some familiar names and some newcomers onto the scene here. A little different look to this year's team trials. I'm sure it's been mentioned once or twice, but a youthful field. And I do not have my notes in front of me, but I believe the average age on the women's side is somewhere between 20 and 21. And we saw the last 2 times here at Gold Coast at the team trials, it was one of the most seasoned veteran players for Team USA, teaching the kids a lesson. Kelly Kulick became the oldest champion at the team trials and then won again, setting a record along the way with 13 points. I feel, I don't want to say it's untouchable, because I feel like I've said that before, and things happened immediately after, right? Almost the next year at some points. But 13 points over 5 days. And her finishes were amazing. But now she is not in the field this week, so it'll be somebody else's turn to hold that trophy. And now all of a sudden, the vets on the lanes, Missy Parkin, Shannon Pluhowski. And very quickly, somebody like Brianna Clemmer, who won the last two editions of the U.S. Amateur, all of a sudden she now is a veteran as well. So it turns pretty quickly, and some amazing young talent out here looking to be the next generation.
All right, looking at some of the finishers across live scoring. Someone to keep an eye on this week, Crystal Elliott's 214. Taylor Bailey was in the top 5 overall coming into today. She shot 202 to open. Missy Parkin, 206. Where she just made the equipment switch from Columbia 300 to Storm. And the Chanel, who I believe won a block award or close to one. Four-bagger the way. Capri Howard finished with 254. She opened, unfortunately, in the 10th frame. Kaya Gray got to 230. Alexandria Smeagol. She can get to the 230s. Here to start. Kara Kay. 240. With one more strike, she will be in the 240s. Avery Brown did finish with 246. 252 from Kirsten Moore with 5 spare 9 in the 10th frame. Paige Peters, of course, just in front of us. Quietly with 8 out of 9. We saw Cameron, Paige's sister, make some things happen in the last couple of years. This event as well as junior gold. Part of Junior Team USA within the last few seasons. And now with the many opportunities to get to 300, Paige won't get there, but she can be the first to get to 270 plus here.
Well, Mill, you have siblings at home, right? And growing up and being an athlete, I'm sure some sibling rivalry along the way. You mentioned Cameron Peters. She's a world champion. That same World Junior Championships you mentioned, Mabel Cummins, they won doubles together. And then Cameron went on to find success also in the regional event there at the Pan Am, as they call it now, Youth Championships in the Dominican Republic. So Paige now just a little bit or a year behind or so, making her way through the ranks here. And again, the gauntlet, right, is out there to catch up to her big sis.
There is Paige. High flush. That is 10 back for Peters. She's going to open up scoring in the 260s. And has drawn an incredible crowd. Probably for a multitude of reasons. One, to see if she's going to finish the game, and two, to see where she's playing. Excellent shot again. Not doing anything fancy. Not giving the pocket away too much, even though she looks like she's around the track area, but angles well out in front, keeping everything in front of her. Nelson shoots 170. This is Jade Garcia on 56. Well, it's not a bad shot by any stretch, but she does leave a 4-9. Cassie Ray, Sage Yamana, and Brenna Madison now over on 57 and 58 as they begin game 2. Of course, as the ball change there just to check what's happening. She'll lead the bucket, but 275 to start. Of course, this is a good time to remind those who are watching on the Sport of Bowling USBC Facebook page as well as the Bowl TV YouTube channel. Our Game 1 free preview will be ending soon. To watch the rest of today as well as the rest of the event, subscribe to bowltv.com if you haven't already. Annual subscriptions at $79.99, monthlies at $9.95. You can get an event pass for this week at $14.95, and that gets you the entire week's coverage. There'll be giveaways. We'll have at least one more giveaway this evening, maybe 2. We've already given away an Echo Dot and some Apple AirPods this week as far as grand prizes are concerned, and, of course, some Bowl TV T-shirts. So plenty of opportunity for you to win. And CC Riojas will finish things out here in game number 1. Matt, I hope I can get you to hang around for about 10 minutes as we transition into game 2.
Absolutely, sir. I'm here for you.
Two giveaways tonight. Aaron Smith has confirmed a Bowl TV T-shirt and one grand prize. It's after CC shot, excuse me. We'll take a small break, recap, reset some things, change a few graphics. And we'll be back with you here for game 2. When we come back, we'll also discuss yesterday's competition. Of course, your day 2 overall leader, which is Julia Bond, or Shannon Puhalski, excuse me, Julia Bond captured the day 2 lead. I'll tell you more about that. And it's coming up next. So, folks, that'll do it. For those of you, again, watching on Bowl TV, the YouTube, and the Sport of Bowling USBC Facebook page, we bid you adieu for now, but join us on bowltv.com. Game 2 next. Middleton Jr., Matt Canizaro, Aaron Smith, Jason Thomas. Back with you in a moment here on Bowl TV.